Boxing Lowdown, and I'm here to preview the big one this weekend, the semi-finals of the super middleweight version of the World Boxing Super Series. That's, of course, George Groves against Chris Eubank Jr. And I have two very special guests with me. On my right, I have my dad. And on my left, I have my uncle, as you may know him as Robbie from ArsenalFanTV. Now, I don't know about the two of you guys, but I've been looking forward to this matchup for a long time, since it's been announced, to be fair. And I know a lot of people at the start of this tournament believed that Chris Eubank Jr. may pull out, but he's here now in the semi-finals, and he's against George Groves. So, starting with you, Dad, what's your thoughts on this matchup?
Wicked fight. Without doubt, the fight of the year so far on paper. Very exciting matchup against, it's a classic case of a guy in George Groves, experienced, very talented, big puncher, good boxing skills, but possibly just past his best, meeting a guy on the up-and-coming swerve. So it's going to be a fantastic matchup. Can't wait. Fight of the year so far, without doubt.
What about yourself?
Yeah, I'm excited as well. I mean, Chris Eubank Jr. for me, one of the most exciting fighters out there. I always think to myself, the only problem's been with Chris Eubank Jr. is that we don't see enough of him, because a lot of times his fights are always pay-per-view or they're on obscure channels and things like that. But this, even though this is pay-per-view as well, but this is a fight I think that could really put him on the map and hopefully make him step out of the shadow of his dad. But to beat Groves, he's going to have to really fight well, because he's up against a really, really experienced fighter, you know, who's been in big fights with big crowds. So he's not going to be overawed by the occasion. So it's really a 50-50 fight, I think.
Is George Groves the best opponent that Eubank's faced so far, would you say?
Yes, certainly, without a doubt. Yeah, I mean, I know he had that the loss against Billy Joe Saunders, which was very close. Came earlier on in his career, where tactically I think he got that wrong that night. He definitely had the beating of Billy Joe Saunders, but he didn't do enough early. He tried to come on late, left it a bit too late, but I think he's learnt from that. But yeah, obviously Billy Joe Saunders has gone on to prove himself as an exceptional fighter. He's unbeaten, he's a world champion. He had that last very good win in Canada where he absolutely schooled David Lemieux. So yeah, that was a great win, and he beat Eubanks, although it was very close, could have gone either way. But certainly George Groves is the best fighter he's fought so far. And also, significantly, he's the biggest, strongest and the hardest puncher that he's faced so far as well, which is going to be important.
What would you say the keys to victory are for, let's start with Chris Eubank. What does he have to do to get victory that night?
I think he has to impose himself on Groves. That Billy Joe Saunders fight, I remember that. I was so disappointed in his performance against Billy Joe Saunders, because he didn't start imposing himself until late in the fight. He cannot afford to do that against Groves. He has to, if he's going to win the fight, he's got to impose himself on him from early. Otherwise, I think he won't win, because Groves, as I said, is like a really, really good campaigner, seasoned campaigner, has fought top fighters. And his last fight that he had, I was really impressed by Groves. And them body shots that he threw in that, he showed a lot of power. And I think the other thing with Groves, he's got a lot of heart. So it's not going to be like the normal Eubanks fights where he just goes in there and bangs his opponents out, which he's done with a lot of guys. I think with Groves, you'll be banging him, but he will still keep coming back. We've seen that so many times in the past. So, you know, he's going to have a game plan, but he's got to impose himself on the fight. If he doesn't impose himself on the fight, I can't see him winning it.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think, though, that he can't afford to get too gung-ho too early and walk onto a big shot, especially early on in the fight, because we know Groves has got power. I mean, I think I read somewhere this week where Martin Murray, who fought both George Groves and Triple G, said that he thought that George Groves hit harder than Triple G. Which,
Triple G?
Well, he said that, so you know, you've got to, you know, if you look at George Groves, yeah. No, but if you look at George Groves, he's had quite a few stoppages on his record. He can definitely punch. Big, strong guy. I mean, you have to remember as well, Eubank is coming. He's not a natural super middle. He's moving up from the middleweight, whereas George Groves is a big super middleweight. I mean, he's probably boiling himself down from light heavyweight to make this fight. But I think crucially, what Eubank, like you are right, Robbie, what he's got to do, he's got to impose himself early. He's also got to set a pace early that George Groves is going to struggle to maintain throughout the fight, because we do know that George, one of his detractors is that he does gas in fights. We've seen that quite a few times where he started off strongly and he gets worn down the stretch. We saw that with Carl Froch, and we saw that also with Badu Jack, you know. Both of those fights, he had his good, he did his good work early on, and he tend to gas out late. So what I think George Groves' tactics will be is that he will adopt the counter puncher's role. I think almost certainly he's not going to want to go out and take any risks himself. I think what he'll do is he'll let Eubank come on, tuck up, maybe lose a couple of the earlier rounds just through sheer work rate, and then obviously as he warms up and gets into the fight, he will try and walk Chris Eubank onto one, which gets really intriguing because Eubank's chin looks really strong. And so that's where I think that this fight, it's got so many intangibles. I'm really looking forward to it, because I think that George Groves is going to adopt the counter-punching role. Eubanks is going to be the aggressor, but he can't afford to be too aggressive. He can't afford to overcommit and leave himself exposed too early. I think he's got to think about what he's doing.
Well, both guys are talking supremely confident ahead of this fight. Now, I want to get predictions from the both of you before I make mine. How does the fight go and who's going to win?
Oh, you know what, as I said, it's a hard one to call. I'll go have to favour the younger guy in Eubanks. I think if he, as I said, I think if he goes out there and he poses himself, throws his combinations, uses his speed, you know, he's got a great chance of winning the fight. But he's got to do it right from the first bell, because as I said, I never forget that fight he had against Billy Joe Saunders. I was so disappointed with how he fought that night. If he'd have started off at the same pace what he finished with, he would have won the fight. But he didn't. He went in all nervy, you know, on the back foot. I think he's a front foot fighter, and I think he needs to go in and do what he's been doing all along. What has got him so far. Obviously, he can't go to gung-ho because, you know, he's up against Groves is a top operator. But I'm going to side with him winning the fight, because I just think the younger guy, I think this is his time. This is his time. He needs to step out of his dad's shadow. This is the time to do it.
Yeah, I agree. But I'm going to go for Eubank more strongly than you did. I'm quite unequivocal. I think Eubank's going to stop Groves. I think he's going to stop him late. I think he will start quicker than what he did against Billy Joe. Like I said earlier, he's got to be careful of being too reckless and walking onto shots too early. But I think that he will start fairly fast and pick up the pace. And I think he'll set a pace that George will struggle to deal with. And I think he's the younger, fresher man, probably got a bit more desire. Not to say that George Groves hasn't got desire, because he's always got desire, always fights with heart. But I just think this is Eubank's time. It's a classic case of a guy that's already hit his peak and physically plateauing out, maybe even on the downslide against a guy that hasn't hit his prime yet, but he looks so full of desire, he looks so fit, so strong. I mean, I always regard Eubank as the most exciting fighter in Britain. The way he attacks is just phenomenal. His athleticism, you know, the way his fitness, his confidence. I really like him, and I think, like you said, this will be the making of him. This is his career-defining fight, and I think he'll come through. He may have to, he probably get wobbled. He's going to have to go through some rocky moments, but I think from what I've seen of him so far and the way he carries himself, the way he handles himself and what he's shown in the past, I think he's capable of coming through. So yeah, I'll go in for Eubanks. Mid-rounds to late stoppage, between 8 and 10.
Okay, now I've been going back and forth with this prediction for a long time now. Like a couple of weeks ago I said Eubank strongly. Last week I said Groves strongly. as we get closer to the fight, I'm leaning slightly towards Chris Eubank Jr. So we've got a full house here. For the same reasons that you both highlighted, I think that this could be his time. I would not be surprised whatsoever if George Groves pulls out the victory. Like you guys said, I mean, he's the much bigger man. He's got a great jab. He's looked very good under Shane McGuigan. And, you know, he's got the experience as well. But something in me just tells me that this is Chris Eubank's time. And I can see it going to a decision. I mean, I know some guys think he might stop Groves, but I don't know. I think Groves is too good for that, for somebody like Eubank to stop him. But who knows? We'll see. But let me know what you guys think. Drop your thoughts in the comment section below. Let me know your fight predictions and how you think this will go. Thank you both for joining me.
Thank you for coming, having me on.
Thank you for joining me.
Likewise, great.
It's going to be a great fight, guys. I'll catch you all on the next one.
Mm-hmm.